What's good everyone, yadiiiigg, 4 eyes, 2 G's here, and today we're here to talk about overrated albums. And I got inspired by Anthony Fantano / Needle Drop's recent series about this topic, so I thought I would add my own little twist on his style of video. Basically, I'm just going to mention a few albums and talk about how I feel about them in relation to their quote-unquote spot in the culture. Do they get their props? Do they not? Etc, etc. Make sure to let me know in the comments below if you guys mess with this, and comment below any thoughts you have on these albums or any other albums you think are overrated or underrated. And before we go on, quick shout out to Black Boy Juice for this sponsored promo.
Gave it more digits, 31 shots, you gon' need a whole digits. You cannot fuck with us 10K niggas, I bet. Cut me a nuke like it came with a dick. The O and the throwaway, someone got hit. Upgraded my whips, 2 other got ditched. Reached the same way he screamed like a bitch. Fuck that shit, I ain't giving no hits. I up it, I blow it, the end of the shit. Snitches get stitches and put in the dish. And fuck out of here, I ain't fucking that bitch. With all the beef shit.
Now let's get to it, and I'm gonna kick it off with Lit. And I'm gonna say this to your average rational Playboi Carti or hip hop fan, this album is solidly rated, and for the most part I do think people over time have warmed up to this album, kind of understood what Carti was doing, and it's gotten its props. But god damn, do some of the Carti fans out there go above and beyond with their love for this album. They're already calling it a classic and propping it up to be one of the decade defining albums, up there with Good Kid, Mad City, Dirty Sprite 2, Take Care, etc, etc. And I'm just not gonna argue it, it's too early. And just like these people, I used to have a tendency to call albums classics way too quickly and way too easily. We really need to let these sit and soak for a while longer. In my opinion, Lit lyrically is too vapid and has a few too many middle to lower tier tracks to be really considered a potential classic. But regardless of that, it's just too early. Plus, if any Carti projects are closer to be considered a classic, it's self-titled and not Lit, in my opinion at least. Alright though, next we move on to Rodeo, and Rodeo is not overrated generally speaking. I was very early on the Rodeo wave and was calling it a classic back in February of 2017, which looking back at was a bit too early I think now. As I said, I did have a tendency to do that back then, but people over time have come to appreciate this album more and realize how special it is, especially nowadays. Remember, that was Travis's commercial debut album. Compare that to most people's debut albums nowadays and they just ain't touching Rodeo. It's as simple as that. They aren't nearly as unique, as well crafted, or as genre blending as Rodeo is. Like, come on, think about DaBaby, Rich the Kid, Lil Pump, basically anyone who's come out in the past few years, and you can feel the effort and the time that was put into Rodeo. They don't feature that progression, that production, or the songs that Rodeo has. Like seriously, not many people are making songs like 90210 or Impossible nowadays. And as Fantano said in his video, it's been very influential as well in this whole dark auto-tune trap wave. And that's something you can't deny. I don't think this is a 10 out of 10 album, but it's for sure on its way to being a classic, and at the very least right now we can say it's one of the defining albums to come out of this 2014, 2015, 2016 onwards trap generation. And before we go on guys, a quick shout out from my Instagram. Big shout outs goes to Juice WRLD, my G, always appreciate you showing love. If you guys haven't yet, do make sure to follow me on Instagram at yadiiiigg. Appreciate all the love and support you guys show me over there. Also a reminder about my merch, we have the Carti, we have the Travis tees on deck. They're fire, links in the description to cop if you're interested. Also like, comment, subscribe, turn on those notifications as well, all that good YouTube stuff so you guys don't miss my content. But let's keep it pushing. Let's level out this discussion of Travis and let's talk about Astroworld. And this is an album that I think right now is overrated. Firstly though, I do want to give my props to it because it is a great album with some amazing songs. However, I do think it suffers from being too long as it's bloated with a couple filler tracks. Also, compared to Rodeo, I think Rodeo featured better verses, songs, and crucially, Rodeo had much more of a narrative that was somewhat fleshed out and developed throughout, something I do think Astroworld was lacking. Admittedly, some of this might be coming from bias due to the fact that Travis has gotten so big that this album and Sicko Mode kind of consumed his identity to the point where so many people just seem to know about this album and that's it, and kids are seriously acting like this is an undisputed classic and is miles better than anything else in his discography, and I'm just not having it. Again, I want to give it its props because it's a great album, and compared to what the rest of the competition are putting out right now, it's definitely more interesting and it came with something different, so props to that. But it just isn't touching Rodeo, and it certainly isn't a classic already. Like Lit, I'll be willing to have that discussion in a few years. And lastly, we get to Good Kid, Mad City. And this video right here, these comments right here are a Good Kid, Mad City disrespect-free zone. Undoubtedly a classic, and in my humble opinion is Kendrick's best album. Although I will admit I am biased in my adoration for this album, as it was one of the first albums that really sparked my love for hip hop, so it does hold a special spot for me. But for an album concept to be executed this well and with enough depth to have post after post written about it on the internet says something. Plus, it's not like the music in and of itself isn't enjoyable and doesn't get played well out. Mad City and Backseat Freestyle definitely go crazy in the mosh pit, and I think the album's balance between a bouncier, trappish sound and a more laid back, quote unquote traditional hip hop sound is underappreciated. There's layers to the album if you want to peel it back, or it can make for an easy listen to bump casually if you want to as well. One of the few albums from that time period I consistently go back to, and I think people are being facetious and flippant when they don't give this album its props. But those are 4 albums I had for today. Make sure to let me know what you thought about the video. Any albums you agree, don't agree, all that good stuff, leave them in the comments. Any other albums, leave them in the comments. Let me know if you want me to do another one. Also, like, subscribe, comment, do that. Turn on those notifications if you haven't. And there are more videos of mine on screen right now. Do make sure to check them out if you haven't.